Welcome back to Amazingly Average, the show with advice for amazingly average authors and actors. My name is John, and I got a beautiful new camera this week, and it's so beautiful. I also just got a part in a movie, so that's pretty cool. Let's jump back to season 2 of Scream. The episode tonight that just aired was called Psycho. Now I know that it's a horror movie sin to have never seen the movie Psycho, but alas, I have not seen Psycho. What I can piece together though is that there's a character named Norman Bates, and his mother's name is Norma Bates. Norma Bates passes away, the mom, and Norman Bates, the son, wears a woman's skin and pretends to be his mother, and he murders a bunch of people. The real-life killer that Norman Bates is based off of is called Ed Gein. Ed Gein was a serial killer. I read a whole entire biography about Ed Gein. Apparently he had an overbearing mother. He was very awkward around women, but like nice to them, and he didn't get along well with men. He kind of lived off on his own like a recluse, so he's really fortifying a lot of things right here. He loses touch with reality, and essentially what he does is he digs up a bunch of graves. He removed a bunch of women's parts, the skin mostly. He had heads, hair, the female anatomy, and he eventually made a suit out of all of the skin that he collected. He made a woman's suit, and he would wear this sometimes. He did end up killing some woman who worked at a shop. I don't remember if he shot her or not, but somebody recalled seeing somebody driving away a truck on the day that this woman was killed at her shop. Now back to Scream episode 2. Since it's named Psycho, this is probably due to the fact that Emma has a whole bunch of breaks with reality, and she's wondering if she's actually psycho. Crazy. At the end of the last episode, Emma screamed when she saw a bunch of pictures of herself in this house next to this pig farm that she saw in her dreams. She didn't scream when she saw Jake, which I thought she might have last time. She actually didn't see Jake, and neither her, nor Brooke, nor anybody knows that Jake is dead. Emma sees all these pictures, she freaks out, she runs back home, she tells her mom, and Maggie, her mom, actually insists that they go back to the farm and confront this, which is very refreshing because last season, Maggie did nothing but run away from her problems, but this time she wanted to tackle it head on. They go back to the house and oh my gosh, what? All the pictures are gone. Wow, I didn't see that coming from a mile away. There's a comment on Noah's podcast that Emma was in by somebody named Eddie Kruger. While this is an obvious tip of the hat to Freddy Krueger, I'm thinking that Eddie Kruger is a reference to Ed Gein, the original Psycho. When Audrey agrees to film this little interview with Eddie Gein, Eddie Kruger. She says, "I'll dust off my costume," which this could be both a reference to the Brandon James costume, which she probably wore at some point last season, to Ed Gein's woman costume. Sheriff Acosta shows up at Kieran's house and says that because he is not 18 years old, he cannot live on his own. He also said that there were complaints from the neighbors that he was being too loud and having a lot of parties, so maybe this is how he coped with both Emma being in therapy and seeing a whole bunch of people die. And seeing his dad die, of course. His aunt shows up, and her name is Tina. His cousin Eli also shows up, who is Tina's son. There's a point where Eli kind of pressures Tina into agreeing to move to Lakewood as opposed to making Kieran move away. And this kind of shows that he's very manipulative, that he convinced his mom to do that so easily. So this could be a problem down the road for him manipulating other characters. Emma meets Eli, and he's really awkward, and not like the cute awkward or like the I'm gonna kill you awkward. Brooke talks to Mayor Maddox the first time we've seen him this season, and Mayor Maddox appeared to text Jake shortly before he enters this amusement park where he got kidnapped. Oh, I don't know what's going on with the mayor here. Gustavo and Brooke have a little conversation, and Gustavo has ranked the Lakewood Six into a certain category of who is most important, and Brooke was number 4, which she was kind of offended at. But ew, why would you do that? Just as Brooke is about to report Jake missing, she gets a text from his phone number, which delays the search for his body. And later down the road, when she's supposedly going to meet him for a date or something, she gets a bunch of flowers on the hood of her car and a note that says, "I'm sorry." And she shows up at his house, but Jake is not there. But guess who is there? Gustavo. Does Gustavo like Brooke? Who knows? It's MTV. Emma met her psych teacher at the coffee shop place that she worked at, and Emma kind of freaked the fudge out when she saw a brunette with glasses drinking a mocha, and she even says this herself, and she freaks out and drops her coffee on the floor. Oh, classic Emma. The psych teacher, Karen, says that Emma needs to find a way to prove to herself that Piper Shaw is dead. So she goes to the boat docks with Kieran, relives the whole thing, seeing a bunch of flashbacks as she walks along the dock. I need to note here, especially in this moment and when she's talking to Kieran, that I think Willa Fitzgerald is doing a phenomenal job in this role. She's really acting truthfully under these circumstances. She's portraying it very believably. Emma and Kieran bang in Kieran's car. When Noah goes to meet Eddie Kruger to talk about the Piper Shaw evidence that he might have, he gets a phone call with the voice changer of the Brandon James character that says that this person will strangle Eddie with his intestines or whatever. And then we see that it is Audrey on the other end of the line. Audrey is so desperate to cover her ass, however involved she was last season. I just kind of feel bad for her at this point. I feel like the writers are pulling at our heartstrings here and they want us to root for Audrey. That little clip of this episode that we saw last week in Scream After Dark where Emma's running away from the car was in fact not a dream like I thought it might be. And who gets out of the car? Her dad. Oh, what was her dad's name? He's moving back to Lakewood. Emma's dad steps out and he basically gives her the choice when or if she even goes to see him to talk to him. Audrey goes to this storage locker where Piper Shaw's stuff is apparently stashed away, and when she opens it, there's a bunch of Christmas tree like air fresheners dangling, and when I saw that, I was like, ding ding, yes, Jake is definitely in there. And she finds Jake's body. It had notes taped to his shirt. See, I cleaned up the evidence for you again, Audrey. Something like that, and it had her name in it. Time for the killer prediction. I'm going to stick with my guns and say that it's Zoe. Zoe appeared at the very beginning of the episode, and Emma said, oh shoot, I forgot to meet you because we were going to have a study session or something. And she says, nah, I used to think you were pretty smart too, or something flattering like that, and walks off. Here is another girl like Piper who gives Emma a little compliment, disappears for a long amount of time, stuff goes on. I think that it might still be Zoe. It is way too early to say, but they kind of implicate Karen as well because she is befriending Emma in the coffee shop, giving her advice on how to better herself, just like Piper did. Until next time, see ya.